Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants. Let's welcome everybody back to the podcast for Fort Worth 148. My name's Rhit. I'm a past master of Fort Worth 148. I've been a Mason for almost 14 years now and love the craft, and we're kind of expanding on this podcast and going to make it a little more entertaining than it's been in the past. Gabe, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Gabriel Jagush, or Gabe, and I have been a Mason for less than a year, and I am of course, a past nothing of Fort Worth 148. I am passionate about ritual, and I am starting to dip my feet into the esoteric world.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we're kind of realizing at 148 is that we've got to do the things that we enjoy, and it's kind of what created this podcast. And originally when we started it, it was on free services. You know, there wasn't much to it. It was quite a bit of work, and now we're getting a little more invested in it and
right.
Got guys interested in being a part of it. So hopefully this will turn into something we can use at our lodge as a good tool to communicate things.
Yeah, this is a great blend. You know, we talk about different kinds of Masons, whether it's social Masons or academic Masons or whatever, and I think this is a great way to bring academic Masons and esoteric Masons and connect them with social Masons, you know? So, and of course, those are just a few types, but
yeah,
you know,
no doubt.
We're
and
reaching out to everybody.
I think we need to go ahead and mention, let everybody know that we're typically going to have a third co-host with us, Brother Grant Gates, but he came down with something's not feeling up to par, and so we gave him the night off, but typically he'll be here with us to kind of help us roundtable these topics that we're going to go over.
Yeah. And as time goes on, we're hoping to add a larger and larger cast of guests. So we're going to try and keep a core group and then just add a big roster of guys that we can just pull in and say, hey, you know, come here. We're doing the podcast tonight. Like, get over here. So,
yeah, I mean, with the software we're using, I mean, I'm in my bedroom. You're in your house. Mm-hmm. We're recording this remotely. It's just going to be too easy to add guest host, you know, sub host, you know, whoever who wants to be a part of this. It could be a lot of fun.
That would be a lot of fun.
Doubt. So I think
we can talk about sort of local Masonic news. I do have a couple things on the Tarrant County page that are still time-wise relevant. So
fire away.
On February 25th, Springtown Chapter and Council, which meets at Phoenix Lodge in Weatherford, is going to host a Chapter and Council festival. They're going to start breakfast at 7 a.m. And March 25th, there is a Commandery Workday, also at Phoenix Lodge at Weatherford, 7 a.m. breakfast. And Arlington Commandery, Southside Commandery, and Weatherford Commandery are going to be involved. There's a couple of degrees coming up, but I think by the time we release this, probably will be too late for that.
Well, if you haven't ever been to Phoenix Lodge, it's pretty cool. It's hard to find the first time, but
really,
it's a huge lodge building. It's really neat.
Is it bigger than ours?
Well, not the building itself. Maybe the lodge room. No, it's not bigger, but it's close.
Cool. That'd be kind of fun to visit. Cool. Most of the lodges that I've traveled to visit are, you know, not knocking them by any means, but they are smaller, you know, and so it's nice to find big, huge places.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about cubic yard as far as volume of the room, there's not many bigger than ours at all. Mm-hmm. You know, because our ceiling's so tall and it's so big itself.
Yeah. The whole thing is an exercise in ridiculousness.
It's true. It's crazy.
Let's see. So I don't really have anything in the realm of Masonic news beyond that.
Well, and hopefully as this thing grows, we'll get more people that, will send us things that they're doing, post them on our Facebook or emailing them, or get better at updating the 64th calendar or the Tarrant County Facebook page to where we can pull them off of there. And, as this thing grows, we'll throw a little advertising out there for them.
Right. Yeah. As we grow bigger and bigger,
we can start supporting each other.
If somebody does want to reach out to us with an event or with a question or with whatever, what do you think is the best place for them to contact us? Is that going to be our Facebook page, or is that going to be our website, or what? I
mean, either one's effective, but Facebook is always easiest. So if you find us at Fort Worth 148, you can shoot us a message through there or post on our wall, or go to our website and contact us through there at fortworth148.org.
And for anybody looking for us on Facebook, we are Fort Worth Masonic Lodge, #148, or at Fort Worth Lodge 148. Our website is, as Rhit said, fortworth148.org. And there's an email link on there somewhere.
Yeah, the email's info148 at fortworth148.org, but it's easier just to go to the website, and then you can take a look at it too, because it's not too shabby.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking at our Facebook page right now, and I'm on there. That's cool. You and I are both on there. It's from the Gavel takeover. We went to, Handley Lodge?
Yeah.
For those of you that are unaware, the 64th District has a traveling gavel. You send a certain number of brothers to go capture it. Whoever has 7 or more brothers and the most brothers, if there's another lodge participating, gets to take the gavel home. So we currently have the gavel.
Yes, the gavel resides at 148. So come and take it if you dare.
I hope somebody comes and takes it, because we're going to take it right back.
Did you say that it's a minimum of 7 as well? Got to have at least 7?
It is a minimum of 7.
Yep. And then do you know how they decide the winner if there's a tie?
It's a
same
toss.
amount of brothers?
Coin toss.
I thought maybe we'd have a wrestling match or something, but
no,
coin toss is good.
That'd be pretty great. I feel like a fencing match would be more appropriate. Just everybody goes and grabs like Tyler's sword and whatever, and just has at it.
Maybe not in Texas.
Yeah.
It'd be a wrestling match.
Wrestling match,
exactly.
That'd be perfect.
As we get this thing going and people you listening to us, send us info on what's going on, and we'll throw it on here.
Right.
So, I think the other thing we wanted to talk about was, as far as Masonic news, was the anniversary this year.
Right. The tricentennial.
Which I early this year in January posted something about it, but had no idea that it would create such controversy. But what doesn't nowadays?
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that Masons love to do most of all is argue. So there's that.
Yes, no doubt. And
have you seen the jewel that UGLE is handing out for it?
I have not.
It's really cool. You have to be a member of the UGLE, but if you are a member of UGLE, you can order this big tricentennial jewel that you hang from the pocket of your sport coat or jacket or tux or whatever.
Huh.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, for me, I think it's a good thing. Although this may not be the 300th anniversary of the Grand Lodge that we've been connected to. However, all that works, that happened in 1813, but still, it's like the National Treasure effect, because after that movie came out, people flooded in.
Guilty as charged. So that's what brought me in, is that, I mean, obviously I was like 13 when the movie came out, but that left like this long lasting burning sort of like, man, I gotta check out this Mason stuff,
Yeah. So it may not be as big of an effect as that, but it'll certainly have some, because it's certainly given us something to talk about.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I know there's some people that were like, they got kind of confused because the tricentennial is for the UGLE. It's not for Masonry or anything like that. It's specifically to one organization. And I've seen some people that are like, oh yeah, but like, Masonry existed way before this. Yeah, we know, but it's the UGLE we're talking about.
Yeah, that's a whole nother side of that controversy, is that, Masonry was around before 1717, and that's duh. That's obvious.
We'll have to bring that one up for another episode, because there is a huge amount of rabbit holes that we can get into on that. Both
There's no doubt.
Historical and mythological. So
either way, it's fun to say happy 300th birthday. Or
not many
anniversary.
people can say that.
Yeah, not at all. That's a real claim to fame.
Mm-hmm.
So I think once we move through Masonic news, typically on our show we would field questions that we receive about the episode, because I'm sure we'll leave a lot of things hanging from time to time. It's going to be pretty organic. So,
have you anything upon your desk, Brother Secretary?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. So I guess for episode 0, we don't have any questions, but maybe for episode 1, I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. To where if we leave you hanging, hit us up on Facebook, website, whichever, and we'll clear it up in the next episode.
Yeah.
To the best of our abilities.
I'll just start leaving questions on the Facebook page under assumed names or something like that.
Pseudonym.
Yeah. It'll just be like Amos P. Dog, and it'll be like a dog wearing a top hat or something.
There you go.
Yeah. So I guess after questions, we would move on to the episode content, right?
Exactly, which I think we were going to talk about technology, kind of make it a soft pitch episode on this one.
Right. And so that's kind of how we're starting off. Well, that's why we're starting off with this podcast again. We have this amazing resource and we're not using it. So,
Yeah, it's not like Podcaster New. And I had no idea they were so easy. It takes a little bit of work, but by and large, there's not much to it. If you've got a computer, you're set.
Yep.
Got a headset and a mic for under $50 and it works great.
Yeah. And I've got a couple setups. I've got a super cheap setup, and I've got a $60 setup, and I've got a $450 setup, And
I see it coming.
And I've got the $450 setup is, the traveling one, that's got all the microphones and everything, but that'll be for our interviews and stuff. So
exactly.
So right now for this episode, you guys are hearing us remotely. Rhit and I are not in the same location, but one of my hopes is that we'll be setting up a portable studio of sorts to do interviews and all that kind of thing. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're going to set up shop at the TMRC for sure and have quite a few interviews down there. I mean, that's a treasure trove of wisdom. Oh, yeah. So as we get more familiar with this software and hardware, sky's the limit. We're going to be hopefully having a lot of people to interview.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, got to take advantage of this technology. It's too easy. Everybody has their phone, pushes out to the podcast apps, and bam, you listen to it stuck in traffic.
Right. And, you can listen to it on your phone, and like you were, before we started recording, like you were saying, you can even record from your phone, because I think you connected with Grant on his phone, right?
Yeah, we initially to where he was just talking to me, he threw it on his phone, and it was pretty dang clear. And then he had a little Bluetooth that he put in his ear, and could still hear him to where, it's not like it's going to be so invasive. Could do a podcast driving home if need be.
Although we at Fort Worth 148 would like to recommend not driving distracted.
No, that was a bad example.
No. I'm very guilty of making phone calls while I'm driving, because that's for like long haul road trips. That's how I stay awake. I call my parents.
Yeah, well, if you got Bluetooth, it's a little less distracting.
Oh yeah, no, I'm hands free all the time. But
for the good of the craft.
Yeah. Today we are here to honor Brother Bob, who died while podcasting.
Would not be good.
Yeah. So I guess this podcast will be accessible via we're going to have a podcast feed burner type deal, I guess. I'm not really sure. Libsyn is what
exactly.
You said.
Yeah, it'll come through Libsyn, which, it gives us a blog spot as well, which will be listed, but the easiest way to get it is through almost any podcast app. I know people download it off Stitcher, of course, the iTunes or the iPhone podcast, Downcast, whatever. It pushes out to most all of them.
Right. And then for anybody that wants to listen from their computer, obviously that's what the blogger part is for. Each episode, I think, can be posted as an individual blog post. And we are working on revamping our website, which will include links to the podcast and that kind of thing. So,
yeah. Oh, and it'll automatically post to our Facebook page, because I know most people that listen to podcasts are Facebookers as well. And if you go to our Facebook page, you'll get a link if you want to listen to it on the computer, or a link you can send to your phone and download the podcast if you don't listen to podcasts, because they're great. You listen to them in your car instead of the same song for the 50th time in the last 2 months.
Bad radio DJ.
Yeah, the same jokes all the time.
Let us be your bad radio DJs. So
precisely.
Yeah. So internet sites, what do you think we're doing right in terms of like websites? What does the craft in general need to work on for websites?
So it kind of, I've always thought the Masons that built our temple, the Grand Lodge, it was kind of the same generation that built all these grandiose buildings that we love so much, and unique architecture really stands out in the community. You know what I mean? Because the temple downtown Fort Worth, there's nothing like it. And I don't even think in the state of Texas. I know not in Tarrant County. That's the same kind of mentality we've got to have for our websites when we build them.
There's a couple of places in Houston and in Galveston that I don't know if they're on the same scale of size, but in terms of grandiosity, yeah. But yes, we should model our websites after those buildings.
Exactly. I mean, because there's temples that are building that are bigger. The Scottish Rite Temple there in Dallas is so awesome, much bigger. But we're a Ziggurat temple, 3-level temple. It's just not something commonly done,
Right.
Very unique. And of course I'm biased, but that's the whole point, is to put that towards your website,
right.
And to have that uniqueness, because it's kind of our medium for this generation. The internet's changed everything. And if bottom line is you got to have a website, even if it's bare bones, but do your best to put a little bit of money into it and make it something good. You know, you don't have to let that brother build it for free.
Yeah. Well, pay the craft their wages.
You got it, and get something good out of it, because, I know ours, originally we spent $1,500 on it, it made that money back in about a year and a half, 2 years from degree fees that we wouldn't normally have had.
Right.
And we've since spent, it's close to $6,000 on the one that we have now. And it's been up for 2.5 or a year and a half, almost 2 years. And it's definitely paid for itself.
We do need to update it more often, but yes, it's a beautiful website. It's just very visually striking, so that helps. I think, it impresses people. So
no, that's really first impression now, I guess, in a way. I mean, if you're a lodge just tucked away that you don't normally drive by, their first impression of your lodge and what Masonry is may be your website when they finally decide to Google closest lodge.
Right. And, sometimes you end up clicking it on and you get an incredible website that looks fantastic. It's responsive, so you can, open it on a desktop or open it on a phone, and it works out great. And you email somebody, and the secretary or the worshipful master or whoever is hooked up to that answers within hours. That's great. That's cool. And then sometimes you've got lodge websites that you open it up and it looks like it was built on GeoCities in 1997 and nobody answers anything.
Yeah.
Because I've seen both,
No, you're right. I mean, because we're guilty for not keeping it updated, and we need to. But we do answer the emails, and that's crucial. That's such a good point. We even have quite a few guys who emailed other lodges and never got responses, and ended up at our lodge.
Well, and that's I actually came to Fort Worth 148 via Julian Field's email, because I emailed Julian Field Lodge. And I said, how do I visit you guys? And the reason why I picked Julian Field was because they had a name, not a number. And I never saw, I didn't see Panther City or Cook Peavy on the results. For those of you listening who don't know what I'm talking about, Panther City, Julian Field, Cook Peavy, and Fort Worth Lodge all share the same building.
Yes.
And I didn't see Cook Peavy or Panther City, and that may have been my oversight. But I saw Julian Field instead of the number, and I was like, well, maybe Fort Worth Lodge is Julian Field, which is in Fort Worth, that kind of thing. So I went to their website, I emailed their guy, and said, he said, come by the temple, sit down and visit. And I ran into Steve Maxwell, who is one of our instructors, and he said, hey, check out 148. They got a lot of more younger guys, so, that's how I ended up there. And, but the fact that I received an email at all was very, reassuring. It was just one of those things that, like, hey, like somebody cares, No,
and we can't forget that moment we finally decided to ask. It's not easy. You got to respect that moment, and give them a chance.
Yeah. And as far as websites go, sometimes brothers might have difficulty setting up websites, stuff like that. You don't necessarily even need a website. You could set up a blogger page, right? That's free. It's provided through Google. If you need to link a blogger page to your Google web search results, when somebody searches your organization, you can do that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty easy. Blogger provides a lot of templates and things like that. So if you find yourself without a lodge website or with a lodge website that looks like it's super outdated, just go to Blogger. Check it out, No,
there's a lot of ways to get, inexpensive websites for sure. But that's a great way to get something out there, because may not be in your community as important to have a website as it is here in Fort Worth. You may be in a smaller town to where you just need something up there to have that one or two times when somebody Googles closest lodge, they have a way to connect with you.
Yeah.
Without putting your own personal information out there, that's not the best way to go about it.
No, because, there's certain things that we've talked about this year that, sometimes it's not always safe to be a Mason, so.
No. Well, and you've always had people that were just haters anyways and take that email and all of a sudden you're getting spam from something that may upset your wife or something crazy.
Yeah. Or
who knows?
Somebody that uses it to get you fired or whatever just because they can.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people on the internet who do stuff just because they can. And,
So that's a great reason to have a website to where you get your own email, and they come with those blogger pages a lot of time as well.
Yeah. So you can have a static you can have a static lodge website, that's, hey, contact info, here we are on the map, this is our stated meeting time, and then you can have a link blog. And then the blog is a separate entity that you update every once in a while, that kind of thing. I tend to prefer unified blog website designs, but that's also a valid strategy.
And when we built our website, we didn't spend money on the very first one we did. It was a progressive thing. So it's not like you can walk in your lodge room and say, hey, I need $3,000 to build a website, and they're going to go, okay. You may have to show them results. Yeah.
Yeah.
You may have to put that free one up or however you go about it to show the results from it, because, if nothing else, you've got a way to put out to the community what you're doing,
right.
And it's permanently out there on the internet. So after 5 or 6 years of doing it, your Google presence is a lot higher.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes a difference. It makes a big difference,
No, all of a sudden somebody's Googling how to give back to the community and your website comes up.
Bam.
Because of your post.
Yeah. Or how to be a better man, that kind of thing. And so,
you got it.
Yeah. And that's, nowadays that's a huge tool. We got a lot of young guys that's their primary mode of communication, and that not as a bad thing. Like I tend to use the internet as my primary mode of communication. And so having a big online presence is really legitimately quite important. So.
Yes, absolutely. It served us well.
Yeah. So one of our big tools is we've got a public Facebook page, and we've also got a private Facebook page. And, our public Facebook page has our, listings on it. It tells us about, where we physically are, when we physically meet. I know that there's a lot of great articles that get posted on the Fort Worth Masonic Lodge page.
Yeah.
So that's
got to keep it active, which Brother David Coley's the one that's really taken us into the stratosphere. We had that Facebook page for years and had gotten up to like 700 likes, which I thought I was doing pretty good.
Right.
And within 6 months, he took us to over 3,000.
Right.
And he had some, he did some things with the family, didn't have as much time to put to it, and has kind of come back and been pretty active with it. And we just hit 4,000 within like 3 months, so he's got the magic touch, but he's just involved with it. And the bigger that gets, the easier it is to grow it.
Yeah. And, one of the easiest ways to grow it is either what David does and post articles, or have people check in with the Facebook app or with a third-party Facebook app, whatever you prefer to use. Just, pop up your phone when you're at lodge, check in. It gets a lot of attention from a lot of people. And
no
that's
doubt,
really cool.
Well, your Mason friends will come and like your page, but I know when we did it that night at stated meeting where everybody checked in, I think we got 2 or 3 people interested in the lodge. The majority of them weren't in I think one of them wasn't even in our state, but still they're going to the craft.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I met somebody that was like, hey, like I found you guys on Facebook, and it was one of our new prospect nights or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, one of the important things about having a Facebook page, make sure that, to those, obviously this is not something that applies to Rhit, but, for those of you that are setting up a Facebook page for your lodge, make sure that the name of the page is representative of what your lodge is. I have been to some lodges where I've wanted to check in on Facebook to spread publicity of like, hey, Gabe is traveling to so-and-so lodge. Check out so-and-so lodge. And instead, it'll be listed as something like Masonic Temple or Masonic Lodge or fraternal organization, right?
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that the name of it actually shows up with your lodge name and lodge number.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not useful. So.
No, definitely. Which will ultimately tag you in that post, the lodge anyway, to where people can link back. Our friends that are Masons on Facebook can link back and like your page. So when you post about a degree, it doesn't go to 20 or 30 people. Now it goes to 200-300.
Yeah, gazillion people.
Yeah, and you get some return off of that. It's not all overnight, that's for sure, but you got to start somewhere, right?
Yep. And in addition to that, the private Facebook page is also something that I know Fort Worth Lodge makes extensive use of. If you don't have a private group set up for your lodge, set one up. It's really easy to set it up. And you organize degrees, you talk about events. Sometimes, depending on the lodge, if you guys like to post stuff that's maybe more jovial, then do that. But, for us, it's primarily a scheduling tool, and a tool that we use to learn, other brothers' skills and capabilities and stuff for degrees. So it is a very utilitarian sort of device.
Right now, what we're using it to build our degree teams.
Right.
Hey, who wants to do this part? Who wants to do this part? We discuss issues that are going to come up at stated meetings, so we're all on the same page, and we don't have a bunch of rigmarole at our stated meeting. Everybody is comfortable with how they're voting, yay or nay,
Actually, and prior to us starting recording, we were talking about emailing minutes out and stuff. If you've got a private Facebook page and it is permissible in your jurisdiction, go ahead and take advantage of that. Post your minutes to your private Facebook page. It's not something that we do, but it's useful. So.
No, but we do take advantage of that uploading files to Facebook, because you can go to our private Facebook page, or we can, because nobody else knows it even exists, and see if a lodge is see if a lodge is even a constituent lodge. We loaded that PDF up, so if you're traveling, you've got instant access to it. You need Grand Lodge Law, it's on our private Facebook page. You need our bylaws, on our private Facebook page.
Right.
There's presentations, there's all program, live program. It's so much easier to get information out with that private Facebook page. And we don't post anything we wouldn't post publicly, but we keep it private, because it's those kind of things. We're not breaking obligations because we know nobody else can see it. But it's just another tool to use to where you're not going to get attacked.
Yeah, and it's like, if you look at pages that are, closed groups that are still open to view, that people can just be invited to. I think the Texas Freemasons page is a great example, or I don't know if great is the right word to use, but it's viewable by the public, but it's a closed group. All you need to do, though, is just add somebody to it, and they're in. So we've got a bunch of people in that group that they're not Masons, or they're Masons from clandestine lodges, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so anybody can get added to a closed, non-secret group. So if you do have a private lodge page, make sure it's actually listed as secret, not closed.
That's a great point, because, even if you searched out, you're not going to be able to see the content that's on our private Facebook page. Where a closed group, you can see the content, but you can't post anything. Private's totally different, and it's a great tool because the discussion's just going to be with those guys you let in, which in our case is only members of our lodge.
Mm-hmm. And that's a huge advantage,
It is. It was such a game changer. I remember the old clunky forums we used to use, and this is so much easier.
Yeah.
You set it up to where you get notified every time something's posted. And of course we don't post a lot, but when we do, it's, hey, we got a degree scheduled.
Yeah.
EA this night.
Show up, do parts, it's really useful, and I guess I kind of do want to contrast, talk a little bit about like larger Facebook groups in general. One of the things we figured we should touch on is, large Facebook groups and how you should conduct yourself on the internet, whether it's by email or on a forum or on a Facebook page or even on Twitter, that kind of thing. Again, Texas Freemasons, there's a lot of great guys in that group, but there's also, not a lot of great Facebook etiquette sometimes, So we got to make sure
it gets pretty nutty,
So.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of times that there's what we have to remember is that there are trolls out there, people that just love to throw that monkey wrench in there and watch us go at it, because you'll see people post a topic and then never come back and say a word about it. And we're just tearing each other up over it,
Right.
And they're just back laughing, having a good time.
Yeah, there's definitely some guys that do that, and sometimes they're, and sometimes they're not trolling. They're legitimately serious about what they intend, but it's still a disharmonious sort of contribution to the group. We had a guy, this was months ago, but a guy who showed up and he was like, yeah, this is, we're so outdated for requiring people to believe in God. And he went and stated that I'm a master Mason, but I don't believe in God, and then everybody's like, so did you lie to your lodge? And but the whole thing exploded into this disgusting, vitriolic sort of argument, and it was bad,
No, I think I remember the post you're talking about, because it can get crazy. And you have guys that, are genuine, but are just so frustrated right now with the way things are. And it's understandable, but at the same time, patience, right?
Right.
I mean,
and maybe they're not frustrated. Maybe sometimes they don't know, we had this morning, actually, as I was eating breakfast, I responded to a post on there. A gentleman, posted on the Facebook group, how do I become a Mason? And my first thought was, how are you in this group? And then, somebody added him. But it turns out he doesn't even live in Texas. He lives in Papua New Guinea, And,
oh, wow.
I responded to him and I was like, hey, it looks like you live in Papua New Guinea. That's under the jurisdiction of the United Grand Lodge of Queensland. Please check out the United Grand Lodge of Queensland website. So Facebook is a great tool because you can help guys from literally all over the world, but it does get old seeing posts like, how do I become a Mason? And insert argument here, that kind of thing.
No, impress me with your disagreement, and your dialogue. Don't just dues are a great example where when we talk about raising dues, somebody will immediately say, well, you're forgetting about all the old guys on fixed incomes, and just attack them about it, to where instead of just saying, hey, what are you doing to make sure that old guys on fixed incomes aren't left out?
Right.
And getting input.
Yeah. Ask instead of accuse.
Exactly.
But I think that's a symptom of people really not learning how to debate and engage in discourse in general. But it amplifies itself on the internet.
Well, and I'm with you because you can't see emotion and faces and gestures and things. But I think also people are so passionate about the way they're doing things in their lodge, and it's working for them, which is great. But they're not understanding that it's not the same, or it won't work the same in other lodges.
Yeah.
You know, when I went to it's not called the Warden's Retreat. I can't remember the name, but
the leadership training thing.
There you go. We went to
whatever
Corpus,
that is.
yeah. And I sat at a table with a guy that was in a very, very small town. So what was working for us was not something that was going to work for him, you know? And as passionate as I could be and as important as I could tell him it was to have a website, that wasn't going to fix his lodge in his area and probably shouldn't be his priority. Right. Although he needed one, there's other things more important that'll get him more exposure. And you just got to figure that out for your lodge and then share it with us. Don't preach it to us.
Right.
You know, take what we can and use. But listen to what I'm doing as well, you know, because just because I raise dues doesn't mean I'm an old guy hater, you know, or I'm trying to push the old guys out.
Yeah. And not to rag on old guys too hard, but I've noticed that there is a definite correlation between typing in all caps and age. You know, I've noticed a couple guys, whether it's communicating through email or on Facebook or whatever, or even sometimes by text message, you'll get messages back to you, just you know, it looks like they're yelling at you. You know?
Well, originally that's the only two ways you could express emotion online is regular font or caps to where you're pissed. You know, I'm mad now.
I remember typing, and I still sometimes, if I don't have the formatting available, you know, like I'll use like asterisks, you know, on either side of the word as like a bracketing thing, or I'll use like slashes around a word to indicate, you know, emphasis as opposed to all caps. But, you know.
Well, and now we've got emojis that you can type out a sentence and put a mad face. You know, whatever you want.
Yeah.
You don't have to use the caps, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah. The, also angry people. I've noticed this has got to be like the 7th post I've seen this past 2 weeks about the Knights Templar International. It's just on the Facebook page and it's the same post every time. Hey, people, like, the KTI is not Masonic, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, we know. We know, you know. But, you know, I guess a lot of people don't know that. But, you know, there's groupthink ideas that people latch on to that you'll see in social media. Whether it's people releasing news on their website or tweeting about or whatever, people latch onto one idea and then beat it to death. And then you never hear about it again until the next time that it's time to beat it to death, you know. So, right, you know, 2 weeks ago it was Resolution 1, you know, for the firearms in lodge. Now it's the KTI thing, and they're, you know, the Knights Templar International, not Masonic, you know, but whatever. Like, it's not a huge deal. There's not a whole lot of these guys.
I mean,
you know?
There's not many bodies that you can't join, you know, that you need to make sure in your jurisdiction what's kosher and what's not, but each his own. Some dudes love going through those things, and you know, I don't want to call them joiners, but they love being a part of it and seeking more light because you know,
but one of the issues with these guys though is that like the KTI condemn Masonry. So so because they're not the Masonic Knights Templar, they're just the Knights Templar International. And it's a totally different organization. It looks like they fund militias in Eastern Europe and in Syria. It's really weird. So,
oh wow, that sounds like a podcast itself.
Yeah, we'll have to get into that because it's really interesting. But it seems like they take Deus Vult very literally. So, yeah.
Well, no wonder it causes all that. More power to them.
So let's, for a jump, what about budgeting software? That's one of the things you have on your list.
Yeah, and I put that on there. Not that I'm super familiar with any of them, because there's the basics like Quicken and things like that. I can't remember the one. I looked it up earlier that we use, Xero. I think it's Xero.
Okay.
That Brother Will Trevino got, to where, there's such an awesome software. Receipts. You take a picture of the receipt and upload it. So I'll buy something with a lodge card for, steward duties, and take a picture of the receipt, send it to him. He uploads it in there. So we're covered. There's a paper trail. It's so great. And we created a budget at Lodge to where we have line items. And so he'll take that receipt with a little information and shoot it to, hey, this came out of the line item for dinners,
right?
Out of the steward budget, and so on and so forth. Hey, this is a deposit for 150 or 250 for an entered apprentice degree fee. And at the end of the year, we've got itemized totals. It's bam. And he's setting it up to where it will populate our Form 71, with all, he's going to make it coincide to where all the line items, and I'm talking out the side of my mouth because I don't know it. He's just said to me how it works. I'm like, great. You tear it up.
Yeah. And,
but
it's awesome that we have somebody that, we have more than a few guys who know what they're doing financially and who know how to use the software. Like, we're very lucky to have that. So
we are. And it's just one of those things that you can use to shave time off of those little things that you typically worry about, because I'd have to bring the receipt home, make sure I put it in the case, turn it into him. Now it's just unloading groceries. Bam, take a picture of it, shoot it over.
What's
done?
That?
It's those little things add up, Form 71, as opposed to having to look for a bunch of numbers. We just hit import into form and it populates,
Yeah. And, for people like, hey, if your lodge doesn't have the budget to do that, or you don't have a brother that can do that, hey, take it to Google Docs. Google Drive has Docs and Sheets. Sheets is their version of Excel. Docs is their version of Word. And Drive is where it all gets stored. If you have to set up like an Excel style budget, which I note is a lot more time consuming, use Google Sheets instead. That is accessible on tablets, computers, phones, everything like that. You can have multiple approved editors. Same thing with Docs. If you want to record minutes, get your secretary to bring his tablet, right? He can write it with a stylus, or he can plug a keyboard into his tablet or laptop or whatever, and that all gets automatically saved to Drive. And you can back it up on a physical hard drive and print it out copies if you need to. And I know that there are other, some of the appendant bodies actually have, dedicated system. I know that the Grand Encampment of Knights Templar actually has their own, software for, recording minutes and database and candidates and stuff, that can also handle chapter and council stuff. But I don't know if there's anything like that for Blue Lodge, But that's a dedicated software.
Yeah, and like you said, lodges that don't have a big budget for it typically don't need extensive software like we have, because it's not like you can't take a picture and upload it into a file anyways,
Right.
And you easily create a spreadsheet on Google, if you don't have Excel, because it's easy to do, but once your lodge starts growing and you got a budget and a lot of money coming in and going out, you look into something like that. Make it easy on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of us joined lodge to be minute takers, record keepers, all of that kind of stuff. It's a duty that we have to perform, and we need to perform it well, but we need to make it easy on ourselves. Don't create hurdles that don't need to be there. That way you can work on the important stuff like memory work.
Yeah. That exciting memory work stuff. It's
exactly.
Which is going well, by the way. Oh, actually, while we're on that note, if you are trying to put together a degree team and you're trying to figure out, hey, like, you know, who knows what, set up a Google form. It's what we did. I'm not going to share that because that's something that I would much rather keep privately within our lodge. But I set up a degree work capability form. It's got 4 sections. You know, the first section is, hey, what is this brother's name? It's a mandatory fill, you know, it's a mandatory fill or section or whatever answer that you have to give. So we know who is answering this. And then it's from there on out, it's just check boxes. Do you know the opening and closing for this part of Entered Apprentice, right? Do you know this degree section for the Entered Apprentice degree, that kind of thing, and so forth and so on for the Fellcraft and Masters and that kind of thing. And so then that way you can actually get a list that Google provides that you can actually, I think you can actually export it to a spreadsheet, and just see like a huge database of who can do what. I'm actually pulling this up right now. Yeah, well, I just downloaded this into Excel. That's cool.
I think the whole reason we got that started is because we wanted a list of who could do what, so we could have set degree teams and send it out on a private Facebook page. They fill it out, bam.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and so I think probably about once a month or something like that, or you know, before big degrees like master's degrees, I'm going to post that on the on the private Facebook page again and say, hey, I know you guys already filled it out, but it's just a checkbook, check box, you know, go for it. Let us know. Have you deteriorated? Have you added new roles? That kind of thing. So,
yeah. Cause there's nothing worse. And I say there's nothing worse because it's the practice. It's what you see at every lodge. You show up for a degree and somebody's walking around with a pad saying, can you do this part? Can you do this part? And the candidate sees that. And in the end, you know, what's got to be done's got to be done. But if you can prevent it by knowing before you ever show up who's going to play what, and the candidate just sees a streamlined, well-oiled machine, I think those little things start adding up to big results, you know. And I know for me, it's added a lot of joy, you know, knowing we're when we show up, we've got guys that are going to do this part and they're going to do them well. You know, you can't just say, hey, I know this part, I can do it. You got to prove it.
And that's something that's awesome about, like organizations like the Scottish Rite, like, you know, Fort Worth Scottish Rite has a Master Mason's degree team. They know their material, like inside, outside, backwards, forwards, all that.
Yeah.
Houston, I don't know if they have a Scottish Rite for this, but they have a shrine organization called, I think it's the Knights of Mecca or the Knights of Morocco. I might be totally off base, but it's Knights of something starting with M, and I'm pretty sure it's Mecca.
No, they have that in Dallas too.
Yeah, but that's the shrine degree team.
It might be Mecca, and it may be different for every jurisdiction, but I went to a degree to watch them, but it got canceled.
Shrine degree team, Houston. Let's see if that gives me anything. I have no idea. Knights of, I think it's the Knights of Korah or the Korah Craftsmen, something like that.
Yeah. It'll be probably different for every, whatever. I know Scottish Rites Valley. I don't know what shrine is.
Yeah.
Just a Blue Lodger.
And then Oklahoma's got the Masonic Indian degree team, which is pretty cool. I'm going to that on May 20th. That's at Hella Shrine in Garland, Texas. So,
I thought it was in Houston.
Well, Garland is pretty close to Houston. So.
No, Garland is right north of Dallas. That's like an hour and 15 minutes. I'm in like Flynn if that's the case. I mean, that's not even an overnight stay.
Oh, I'm thinking I'm thinking of Sugarland. I looked at Garland, Sugarland, and I was like, what? And I was like, yep, nope. No, you're totally right. It's part of the Fort Worth Metro.
I'll go buy my ticket.
Yeah. The link is on the private Facebook page. So
sweet.
Yeah, it's one of my posts.
That's another thing we use that for, is like when we did the resolutions for Grand Lodge, we'd already talked about them on Facebook, and I pulled up the notes and read it in Lodge so everybody knew what was going on. It was so simple.
Yeah. So
such a great tool.
Yeah, I posted it on the 15th on our private Facebook page. For those of you that are interested, I know that we already talked about events, but we forgot about this. On May 20th, the Oklahoma Masonic Indian degree is going to put on a Master Mason's degree in Garland, Texas, at the Hella Shrine Horse Patrol Barn Arena at 2121 Rowlett Road.
It's going to be sweet.
And lunch is starting at 11:30 a.m. Bring your dues card and a picture ID.
I think they said maybe a chair, but it's passing around Facebook to where you can get details about it.
Right.
Just look at the big groups.
And it's like $25. That's the amazing part. It's just $25, and you get to see people do crazy good work. So.
Oh yeah, and cool costumes. I mean, they're decked out, no doubt. No doubt about it. So what else did we have on our list that was important to talk about? I think you kind of hit on cloud services, which is kind of what we use the private Facebook page for, but there's other ones out there you can use, Google Drive, iCloud, Dropbox. Set it up for the lodge so you can pass, forms, investigation.
I get a lot of mileage out of Google Drive. A couple other things we had on our list were PayPal and equipment for PowerPoints in Lodge.
Sweet. So the PayPal, I think, was another great thing that we added to our Lodge, to where you can go online and pay for dues, endowment, degree fees.
And you had it set up so that, if somebody can't afford to pay, because we recently, for those of you that don't know, which is a phrase I feel like I'm going to be using a lot. For those of you that don't know, we recently raised our dues to $365 a year. Which is a lot for some people, obviously. And if you cannot pony up $365 all at once, Rhit has accommodated for that in PayPal by letting people pay monthly. So it's pretty great. Yeah.
No, it's been great. And even for those of us that are already endowed, we've set up automatic payments to where we can donate on a monthly basis, to cover costs that endowment doesn't cover.
Yeah.
It's a great way to give, because set up for $10 a month, you could barely feel it. But when a bunch of us start doing it, it adds up at the lodge quick over a year's time.
Yeah. And, on a personal, if you're looking at this from a personal level of finance, I still would encourage people to pay using a check or cash, just because you don't get hit by the PayPal fees for that.
Yeah, you got to add in the PayPal fees.
But if you don't mind a little bit of convenience pricing, hey, lodges, get you a PayPal. It's really useful.
Yeah, and when we got the PayPal, they offer you the swipe. I don't even know what you call it. That plugs into plugs into a
Square
smartphone.
Cash.
There you go. So if a candidate shows up for a degree and they didn't bring cash, we can take their card now, plug it into my phone, link to the PayPal Lodge account, swipe, degree fee paid.
Boom.
We did it when we did our fundraiser. I think Greg sold a lot of our tumblers that way, the Yeti tumblers.
I think he did, yeah.
So it's another great tool to make things easier on everybody. Nobody likes writing a check. Well, some people do. So, but yeah, if you want to just get it done, it's a great option, because say you don't use it, it doesn't cost you anything. The fees come in when you use it. So like on the $500 endowment, you pay $514. So it's not bad, but it's still there.
Yeah. And so it's not a huge deal.
No, but the last one that I think that we had on the list was the equipment for PowerPoints and Lodge.
Yeah.
I think this is really, aside from a website, it's probably the second most important thing. Because that's what we're there for, is to discuss issues with each other, and got to have that tool at the ready. Not to mention you can use them for your lecture slideshows for your degrees and get rid of that old clunky.
Well, and for guest speakers too. We've had guest speakers come in that have had that if they didn't have a PowerPoint, it would have been much less of a good experience, And
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. When you're giving the lecture for the degrees, it makes a difference because I got I think it was two of my lectures were without a PowerPoint, and
yeah,
they were good lectures, but they were not as easy to follow. I recently went to Master Mason's lecture. He did the long form, and it was great to listen to. I really enjoyed it. But the entire time that I was sitting there, I was going, man, I really wish I had my monitor with me, because then I could at least look at the pictures and kind of, I don't know. I tend to be, not just aural, but also visual and tactile. So I need to be flipping through something and looking at it and all this. So I don't know.
No, I think that's something we've lost in Masonry, is it should be an assault on all of your senses, from hearing, seeing, so you're not just hearing the lecture, you're seeing it, There should be something you should smell in Lodge. There should be something you feel,
preferably incense and not something else, but yeah. I think the phrase that I've used before when talking about it with you and with a couple other guys that want to be involved on the degree team is total sensory overload.
Yeah.
And that doesn't apply to just the ritual part. It should also apply to, the instruction, as well as the drama, especially the drama. Of the third degree, and to a certain extent the second section of the fellowcraft. I feel like it's most important in the ritual of the entered apprentice, because that's your first impression, and you never get to take back a first impression.
Yeah, and I mean, really and truly, each degree it should be a memorable experience, and the more senses that they use, the stronger that memory is going to be. Right. Because I have smells that trigger memories. When I walk into a barnyard and smell cow manure, it takes me back. But that's a stinky example, but
no, but it's a good example. There's smells that I think of, back when oh wow, this reminds me of when I was in college and I was doing an internship out in New Mexico, and I was out in a fracking rig,
Yeah.
And it's just a weird chemically smell that you just kind of waft by, or, sometimes you're just like, oh, this is like a horrible fish smell. It reminds me of the time that I went fishing for the first time with my dad.
No, it's definitely seems common sense that the more senses you put into the experience, the more memorable it's going to be.
Yeah.
And that's what it should all be about. Because if it's memorable for that candidate, you're not going to be able to run him off. It doesn't matter what's going on at your lodge, even if it's nothing. If you're doing good degree work, and that candidate feels like it was special for him, he's a lifer. He's a lifer.
Yeah. Yeah. And, if you're sitting there and you've just finished the EA degree and it's getting kind of late at night, and you don't have anything visual for that poor guy, and I don't know that you're going to lose him, but he's going to have a rough time of it, So I've definitely seen people during the lectures, just kind of not falling asleep, but you can kind of see them glaze over pretty hard.
Oh man, so, I was one of them. It's like, God, it's just onslaught of information.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go home. What's going on?
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you mean I have to, what do you mean I have to do that? No, yeah. So,
And if all you got is the old clunky slideshow thing, from the 40s or 50s, use it. But, even if you go get a 32-inch TV for a couple $100, or get somebody to donate one that you can run off a laptop, or, we run it off of our phone.
yeah, we've got a HDMI to iPhone thing, and that works incredible. I think obviously the best solution is to have a projector that you can project onto the wall of your lodge. But, if you've got the old wooden slides and that's something that you want to roll with, do it. Not all tech has to be high tech, especially when you've put a lot of thought into it. Because I like the old wooden slides, that really speaks to me. So if you're doing a traditional observance lodge, or you just like old stuff and you think that it would really add to this experience, then go for it. But don't do tech high or low without thinking about it. You have to think about the way you use your tools.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think we do a pretty good job of here at Fort Worth is, hey, we've got a setup, we've got a TV, the plug is right there, it's connected to the iPhone. Anybody can operate it because it's just swipe, swipe, swipe,
Yeah. No, and it's the same thing. I mean, because the TV actually is, while it's clear, crisp picture, the cheapest option is a projector, which you can just put right on your wall. I mean, just Googling it right now, there's a $99 projector that you can buy.
Yeah. There's even projectors that you can plug into your iPhone. And so you don't even need a cable or an adapter or anything. It just plugs into your iPhone, which to me, that's just incredible, or Android if you're like me and, our special snowflake. So,
anything else that you can think of we need to add to tech before we kind of wrap this thing up?
I'm sure we'll end recording and then I'll think of something.
Well, and this is definitely a topic, especially when we get Brother Grant back, somewhere down the road, we'll certainly bring it up and dive deeper into each one. I know as this podcast catches on, people want to know how we did it, where we can kind of get a little more detailed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think that I've really got anything else now can think of to add on there. But, of course, if anybody's got any questions or something that we missed, that's really what we're shooting for. If you've got an idea that's working for your lodge, let us know. Yeah. We're not going to tell you it's a bad idea. We may tell you it's not going to work at ours. But we'll certainly give it a try if it's a good one. That's for sure.
So if you have questions, comments, anything like that, reach out to us at fortworth148.org or Fort Worth Masonic Lodge 148 or at Fort Worth Lodge 148 on Facebook.
There you go.
At some point, we should totally get an Instagram. I feel like we could probably make pretty good use of that.
No, we'll have to get involved in all of them. That's why it'll be great to have, regular guest hosts that help us with those back end things like that, where, many hands make light work, because I don't want us to get crazy and all of us to become a part-time job podcasting. I want us to enjoy it.
Right.
And I know other guys are going to want to be involved. So I've got down here teaser for next week, which we're going to try to do this on a weekly basis. They may come out more often. They may come out less often. We're just doing this to enjoy it, but we're going to try to stick to a regular schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, which I'm not stuck to it, a great topic next time would be kind of guarding the West Gate and investigations.
That sounds like a great topic.
Yeah, because we've got a lot of new Master Masons in our lodge that kind of need help, because lo and behold, you get voluntold you're on an investigation committee, because all of us old heads have been doing them for years.
And you get sick
time
of it.
and time again. Yeah, you want to share the burden, and then you're like, well, what do I do? And if all you do is fill that form out and turn it in favorable, you haven't done an investigation.
Right.
So
Or,
I think it'd be good for us to.
You don't even have to be on an investigation committee. You can, hey, my best bud wants to be a Mason. How do I know that that's right for him? And how do I know that he's right for us? That kind of thing. Yeah. So that's something we can definitely touch on.
Yeah, which I know we'll have a lot of content for, because that's a big subject, especially nowadays. Things have changed. So it'll be a great episode. So definitely stay tuned for that, which hopefully will be coming sooner than later.
So
exactly.
Yeah, like we said earlier, FortWorth148.org, at Fort Worth Lodge 148 on Facebook.
Yep. And then, of course, if you just want to shoot us an email, info148@fortworth148.org.
Right. If you are interested in Masonry, or you are interested in just meeting us, please shoot us an email and we'll set up a meeting time. I think we can also say, hey, our stated meeting is the second Monday of every month, barring holidays, which I don't think there's many of those that interfere with that, at 6 p.m. at 1100 Henderson Street in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yep. We eat at 6 p.m. and come hungry because we eat good.
Oh, yeah.
And we have the travel gavel. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Yeah. Come grab the travel gavel, because I want to
come and take it.
Yeah, come and take it, because we'll take it right back.
Yeah, we'll take it right back. I've got on here to close out with an inspiring quote. Why not start out with a brother? Not that we'll always quote a brother, but probably one of my very favorite quotes is by Theodore Roosevelt. It's, far and away the best prize that life has to offer is the chance to work hard at work worth doing, which is very Masonic in my mind, because everything we do is work for results, which we enjoy for a moment, but get right back in those quarries and get working again.
Yep. And Teddy knew about putting in the work, both in and out of the lodge.
He was a man of the craft for sure.
No kidding.
So I think we'll go ahead and close this thing out, and until we can get ourselves together and get another one, I think this is a great first podcast for this remote recording.
Right on.
All righty, brothers. Y'all be good. And this is Rhit and Gabe signing off.
Signing off.